Nigeria is today Africa's most populous nation and one of the continent's most influential countries. Before colonial rule, the area now known as Nigeria was home to numerous independent societies with distinct political systems, cultures, and economies. Home to hundreds of ethnic groups, many religions, and thousands of years of history, Nigeria did not begin as one united nation.
Before colonial rule, the territory now called Nigeria was made up of powerful kingdoms, empires, city-states, and independent communities.
Modern Nigeria was created largely through British colonial expansion and political consolidation during the 19th and early 20th centuries. In northern Nigeria, powerful Hausa city-states emerged between the 11th and 15th centuries. Cities such as Kano, traders exchanged gold, leather and salt cloth and enslaved people with merchants from North Africa.
To the northeast, around Lake Chad, the Kanem-Bornu Empire became one of Africa's longest-lasting states.
The empire controlled important trade routes and built strong military and political systems.
Islam gradually spread through trade and scholarship, shaping politics, education, and culture across the region. In southwestern Nigeria, the Yoruba kingdoms rose to prominence. Ile-Ife became the spiritual and cultural heartland of the Yoruba people, famous for its sophisticated bronze and terracotta art. The Oyo Empire developed in one of West Africa's most powerful states, built a strong military, expanded trade networks, and developed complex political institutions that balanced royal power with councils of chiefs. In southern Nigeria, the Kingdom of Benin became renowned for its organization, military strength, and artistic achievements. Benin City impressed early European visitors with its wide streets and massive earthworks. Skilled bronze artists produced some of Africa's greatest masterpieces, while the Oba ruled through an advanced administrative system.
In southeastern Nigeria, many Igbo communities developed differently from the large kingdoms around them. Rather than centralized monarchies, many Igbo societies operated through republican systems. Political authority was often distributed across families, age grades, and village councils. Along the Niger Delta coast, trading states such as Bonny, Brass, and Calabar became wealthy through regional and Atlantic commerce. States acted as intermediaries between inland communities and European traders arriving by sea. In the late 15th century, Portuguese explorers became the first Europeans to establish sustained contact with the region. At first, trade focused on gold, ivory, pepper, and textiles. But over time, the trade in enslaved Africans became dominant. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, the Atlantic slave trade transformed West Africa. Millions of Africans were transported across the Atlantic to the Americas. The slave trade increased warfare, destabilized communities, and reshaped political power across the region. Some states profited from the trade, while many others suffered devastating losses.
In 1804, the Islamic scholar Usman Dan Fodio launched a major reform movement across northern Nigeria. Known as the Fulani Jihad, the movement challenged Hausa rulers accused of corruption and weak Islamic practices. The jihad led to the creation of the Sokoto Caliphate, one of the largest and most influential Islamic states in Africa. The caliphate governed through Islamic law and a network of emirs under the Sultan of Sokoto. Britain abolished the slave trade in 1807 and moved to legitimate commerce. Its interest in West Africa keeps growing. As Britain industrialized, demand increased for palm oil and other raw materials from West Africa. Christian missionaries expanded their activities across southern Nigeria during the 19th century. They built schools, translated religious texts, and introduced Western education. These schools later produced many of Nigeria's future nationalist leaders. During the late 19th century, the Royal Niger Company expanded British influence inland. The company signed treaties with local rulers, controlled trade routes, and used military force to secure dominance along the Niger River. These activities laid the foundation for direct British colonial rule. Between 1884 and 1885, European powers met in Berlin to divide Africa among themselves. No Africans were invited to the conference. The Berlin Conference outcome strengthened Britain's claims over territories that later became Nigeria.
By the early 20th century, Britain controlled several territories in the region. These included the colony of Lagos, the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria, the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria. Each region was administered separately under British authority.
British colonial administrator Frederick Lugard became one of the key architects of colonial Nigeria. Lugard promoted a system known as indirect rule. Instead of replacing traditional rulers completely, Britain governed through local emirs, chiefs, and native authorities. The system worked more easily in northern Nigeria, where centralized emirates already existed. In many southern societies, however, indirect rule created tension and resistance.
The name Nigeria was popularized in the 1890s by British journalist Flora Shaw. She derived the name from the Niger River, the great waterway that connected much of the territory. Flora Shaw later married Frederick Lugard.
On 1 January 1914, Britain merged the northern and southern protectorates with the colony of Lagos into one colony called Nigeria. This event became known as the Amalgamation of Nigeria.
Carried out the merger mainly for administrative and financial reasons. Southern Nigeria generated more revenue through trade, while the north depended more heavily on British funding. The amalgamation joined together peoples with different cultures, religions, political systems, and historical experiences, many without their consent.
Under colonial rule, Britain reorganized Nigeria's economy to serve imperial interests. Railways, roads, and ports were built mainly to move raw materials from the interior to the coast for export. Nigerians produced cocoa, palm oil, cotton, groundnuts, and minerals for British industries. Western education expanded rapidly in southern Nigeria, especially through missionary schools. An educated elite emerged: teachers, journalists, lawyers, and civil servants who would later challenge colonial rule.
Educational development in the north proceeded more slowly, contributing to regional differences that later affected Nigerian politics.
Nigerians resisted colonial rule in many ways, through protests, strikes, and local uprisings. One of the most important protests occurred in 1929.
We will not pay the tax.
Southeastern Nigeria demonstrated against colonial policies and taxation fears. Known as the Aba Women's Riot, the protest revealed both popular dissatisfaction and the political influence of women in Nigeria.
During the early 20th century, Nigerian nationalism began to grow. Leaders such as Herbert Macaulay criticized colonial policies and demanded greater African participation in government.
A new generation of leaders emerged during the 1940s and 1950s. Nnamdi Azikiwe promoted nationalism through journalism and politics. Obafemi Awolowo advocated federalism and educational reform in Western Nigeria. Ahmadu Bello became a major political voice in northern Nigeria. Tafawa Balewa rose as an influential nationalist leader and parliamentarian.
World War II transformed colonial Africa. Thousands of Nigerians served in the war effort, while economic hardship increased at home.
Where is our democracy and the Russian?
Returning soldiers and growing trade unions demanded political reform and self-government. Anti-colonial movements became stronger across Nigeria.
Britain introduced a series of constitutional reforms that gradually expanded Nigerian participation in government. The Clifford Constitution of 1922 introduced limited elections. The Richards Constitution of 1946 strengthened regions. The Macpherson Constitution of 1951 expanded representation,
Established a federal system. Political parties increasingly developed along regional lines.
During the 1950s, Nigerian leaders negotiated with Britain over the country's future. Regional governments gradually achieved internal self-government. In 1959, elections paved the way for full.
A coalition government emerged between major political parties from different regions.
On 1st October 1960, Nigeria officially became an independent nation. Nigerians celebrated the end of British colonial rule.
Tafawa Balewa became Nigeria's first prime minister, while Nnamdi Azikiwe became governor-general.
After decades of colonial rule, Nigeria entered a new chapter as a sovereign nation.